The mountain air here does not just bite, it carves. It is a thin metallic cold that settles into the lungs, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp, rotting stone. Outside the gates of Ellingham Academy, the world simply stops, replaced by a wall of white. The snow has been falling for 3 days, burying the tracks of anyone foolish enough to believe they could leave this place. Welcome to Swasti Diaries, where we peel back the layers of history's most calculated vanishings. In 1936, this estate was a fortress of glass and marble, a sanctuary for the brilliant. But beneath the polished floors, the blueprints tell a different story. A story of gears, pulleys, and hollow spaces that breathe. Iris Ellingham and her daughter Alice did not walk out of these doors. They were swallowed by the architecture itself. The snow is falling harder now, obscuring the path, but the echoes of that night remain, trapped in the ventilation shafts, hidden behind the library's wainscoting. I am standing at the threshold, clutching a leather-bound file that feels heavier than it should. My pulse is a steady, rhythmic thrum against my collarbone. I know why I am here. I am here because the cold does not bother me, the silence does. The silence is a lie. Somewhere inside these walls, the gears are shifting once again. A witness has gone quiet. A ledger has been burned, and the ghost of a machine designed to vanish has begun its cycle anew. The mountain is waiting, and I am ready to see what it has been hiding for nearly a century. The archive room is a tomb of yellowed parchment and brittle binding. I trace the spine of a ledger, the dust coating my fingertips like gray ash. 1936. The year the mountain turned into a cage. Iris Ellingham, a woman of immense poise, stood in this very study, her hand resting on the mahogany desk. A desk that still bears the faint, circular indentation of a heavy glass inkwell. Beside her, Alice, barely 7, played with a doll, the porcelain limbs clicking against the floorboards. Then the chime of the clock, a discordant metallic sound that echoed through the ventilation ducts. It was not a storm that took them. It was a calculated, mechanical extraction. The note arrived on the mantelpiece, written in a hand that was precise, slanted, and entirely devoid of tremors. It is the Truly Devious note. It reads, "The mountain holds the secret tight. The gears turn slow within the night. The daughter waits, the mother sighs beneath the stone where silence lies." A nursery rhyme for a nightmare. It wasn't just a threat. It was a map. I look at the blueprints now, the ink faded to a faint ghostly sepia. The lines are not just walls, they are levers. The library wainscoting sits flush against the stone, yet it is a facade for a pneumatic lift. A system that could move a human body from the study to the basement in seconds, silent as a shifting glacier. The police found no blood, no struggle, no forced entry. Just the lingering scent of ozone and the heavy, suffocating weight of a room that had suddenly become hollow. They were here and then they were simply absence. I clear the surface of the scarred oak table, my movements deliberate, precise. I lay out the black and white photographs like a deck of cards. These are not just images, they are evidence of a vanishing. I squint at the image of the study, the grain of the film creating a textured, grainy haze over the scene. My eyes lock onto the fireplace mantel, the exact spot where the Truly Devious note was recovered. I pull a magnifying glass from my pocket, the metal frame cold against my palm. I hover over the silver inkwell, the one mentioned in the 1936 police report. There is a discrepancy. The report claims the inkwell was overturned, spilling ink across the rug, yet in this photograph, the one taken by the first responding officer before the scene was contaminated, the inkwell is upright, perfectly centered. A smudge of black ink sits on the mahogany, but it is a perfect circle, not a spill. It was placed there, a deliberate marker. My pulse thrums against my throat, a steady rhythmic tap. Why would the lead investigator lie about a spill? I flip to the autopsy summary, the paper thin and brittle. It mentions a faint chemical residue on Iris Ellingham's shawl, a compound that wasn't standard for the era. My hands tremble just for a second, then I force them still. I lean in closer, the scent of dust and ancient paper filling my lungs. The police report wasn't just incomplete, it was sanitized. Someone inside that room, someone with the authority to dictate the narrative, had scrubbed the reality of the kidnapping before the ink on the report had even dried. I am not looking at a crime scene anymore. I am looking at a cover-up, buried under 80 years of silence, waiting for the gears to turn once more. Outside the heavy stone walls of Ellingham Academy, the world is narrowing. The Vermont winter has arrived with a sudden violent drop in temperature, a bone-deep chill that turns the breath into a ragged white mist. By dusk, the sky is the color of a bruised plum, heavy with the promise of a blizzard that will seal these mountain passes tight. The windows rattle in their frames, a rhythmic, metallic clicking that sounds far too much like the gears of a clock. I watch the snow begin to accumulate on the ledge, piling up in thick, silent drifts against the glass. The isolation is no longer just a physical state, it is a weight. With the roads blocked, the modern campus has become exactly what it was in 1936, a fortress of secrets. I walk the perimeter of the library, my footsteps muffled by the thick velvet rugs. Every shadow cast by the dying light seems to stretch, distorting the architecture until the bookshelf edges look like the teeth of a trap. Paranoia is a quiet thing. It starts with a glance over the shoulder, a sudden urge to check the locks, the realization that the blueprints I hold contain a path that no one else sees. My fingers trace the cold iron of the radiator, the metal humming with the vibration of the building's old, temperamental heating system. It is a series of pipes, a labyrinth of hollow veins running through the stone. If the 1936 architect knew how to navigate the walls, then the person moving through these corridors today has the same advantage. The silence inside the library is absolute, save for the wind howling against the eaves. I am trapped here with the past, and the temperature is falling. The air in the dormitory common room is thick, not with warmth, but with the scent of ozone and scorched paper. I find the note pinned to my desk with a silver letter opener, a relic from the library archives. It is not a prank. It is a transcript. My hands tremble as I unfold the heavy yellowed parchment. The ink is fresh, wet, and smelling of chemical solvent. It matches the handwriting in the 1936 journal entry exactly. The words are a direct threat. The walls have ears and the floor has teeth. You are looking for a ghost, Stevie. But ghosts do not need blueprints. My breath hitches in my throat. I look toward the floorboards near the radiator, the wood grain slightly misaligned, a gap thin as a razor blade. I press my ear against the paneling. There is a sound from deep within the foundation, a rhythmic metallic scrape, metal dragging against stone. It is the sound of a counterweight shifting, a slow, deliberate movement that shouldn't be possible in a modern building. I pull back, my pulse hammering against my ribs. Was that a floorboard settling, or was it the mechanism described in the blueprints? I need to check the basement, but the staircase is dark, the bulb flickering with a dying yellow light. I look at my reflection in the window, a distorted, pale ghost against the black glass of the winter night. Am I losing my grip? Or is the building finally exhaling the truth it has held for 80 years? The temperature drops again, and I can see my own breath, white and frantic, dissipating into the shadows of the room. The trap is not closing. It has been open the entire time. I leave the dormitory behind, my boots crunching on the frozen gravel outside. The wind bites at my face, but the cold is a welcome distraction from the metallic scraping still echoing in my head. I head toward the old gardener's shed, a structure that has stood since the academy's inception. Dr. Sterling is waiting. He doesn't look like a man guarding secrets. He looks like a man tired of holding his breath. Inside, the air smells of cedar, damp earth, and the distinct sharp tang of old paper. He gestures to a heavy oak desk, its surface scarred by years of use. He doesn't speak. He simply pushes a sliding panel aside, revealing a compartment lined in velvet. He pulls out a leather-bound journal. The leather is cracked, flaking away like dry skin under my touch. I open it. The pages are thin, translucent, and covered in a frantic, slanted script. My flashlight beam cuts through the dimness of the shed, catching the entries. These aren't just notes. They are chemical formulas. I recognize the notation for a specific, fast-acting sedative, the same compound mentioned in the 1936 toxicology report. My fingers trace the lines. There is a diagram tucked into the binding, a sketch of a gear assembly that matches the floorboard mechanism I just discovered. The motive wasn't random malice. It was a calculated, cold-blooded extraction. Iris Ellingham wasn't just a victim. She was a variable in a financial equation that someone desperately needed to solve. The ink on the page is faded, but the intent is as sharp as a razor. Dr. Sterling watches me from the corner, his face obscured by the shadow of his hat. He knows. He has known all along. The puzzle pieces aren't just fitting together. They are locking into a cage. The air in the shed feels heavy, charged with the static of a secret finally unspooling. I stare at the diagram in the journal, a series of concentric circles and intersecting lines that defy the standard architecture of the Ellingham estate. It is not just a sketch. It is an engineering schematic. My thumb brushes the brittle edge of the paper, tracing the path of a counterweight pulley system that runs behind the library's wainscoting. The poem, the Truly Devious riddle. It wasn't a taunt. It was a set of instructions for the kidnapper. A roadmap. I look up at Dr. Sterling, his silhouette framed against the frosted window pane. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow. The kidnapping was never about a ransom note or a crime of passion. It was industrial sabotage, executed with the precision of a master architect. The Ellingham Academy was built on a foundation of lies, and this system was designed to prune away anyone who threatened the financial structure of the institution. Iris Ellingham wasn't merely a mother, she was a threat to the balance sheet. She held the keys to the liquidation, and the architect, the one who knew the hidden veins of this building, simply folded her into the walls. The sedative dosage recorded in this journal matches the 1936 toxicology report with lethal accuracy. This wasn't a kidnapping, it was a removal, a clean mechanical extraction. My hands tremble as I hold the journal, the ink blurring under the harsh beam of my flashlight. The past is not dead. It is waiting in the blueprints. And now, someone is using those same gears to silence the present. The cold outside is nothing compared to the chill of knowing that the walls themselves are complicit. The wind howls against the shed, but my focus is fixed on the damp earth near the foundation. I step out, my flashlight cutting a jagged arc through the swirling snow. There, between the exposed roots of an ancient oak and the stone wall of the library annex. A shape. It is not a shadow. It is a body. I crouch, my knees sinking into the freezing mud. The victim lies in a posture that mirrors the archival photos of 1936. Arms tucked, head tilted at an impossible, unnatural angle. I do not touch the skin. I do not need to. The faint metallic scent of bitter almonds hangs in the air, clashing with the sterile, pine-scented frost. A single, thin needle puncture is visible on the inner wrist. The same sedative, the same placement, the same meticulous, clinical precision. My flashlight beam pans over the victim's coat, a high-end, tailored wool jacket, completely dry despite the blizzard. This person was not dragged here. They were deposited. The stone panel behind the body, masked by years of ivy, is slightly ajar. A fraction of an inch of darkness separates the slab from the wall. The gears. They are still warm to the touch. The mechanism has been used within the last hour. I look up, scanning the darkened windows of the academy. Someone is watching. Someone who knows the blueprints by heart. The killer is not a ghost from the past. They are a resident of the present, moving through the very architecture of this school like a phantom in the machinery. My breath hitches, a sharp, jagged sound in the silence. The logic is inescapable. The cycle has begun again, and I am standing at the epicenter of the collapse. I pull my hand away from the stone panel, the grit of century-old dust coating my fingertips. The cold is biting, but my mind is a furnace of frantic calculation. I retreat inside, the heavy oak door of the library clicking shut behind me like a coffin lid. The silence here is thick, suffocating. I move to the archives, my boots silent on the velvet carpet. I need the blueprints. Not the public ones, but the original schematics, the ones Edward Ellingham kept buried in the restricted section. I spread the yellowed, brittle vellum across the mahogany table. My flashlight illuminates the delicate, ink-stained lines of the foundation. There, in the margins, annotations in a hand I recognize from the journals. Not just a wall, a counterweight system, a series of lead-line pulleys hidden within the masonry, designed to shift the internal structure of the library's north wing. I trace the path with a shaking finger. It connects the study, the basement vault, and the very spot where I found the body. It is not magic, it is engineering. A machine designed to swallow a person whole and deposit them into the frozen night without a sound. I look at the dates on the blueprints, signed by the architect just weeks before the 1936 disappearance. The logic is clinical, precise, and utterly terrifying. The killer isn't just using the school. They are part of its mechanical heartbeat. I hear a faint rhythmic clicking coming from behind the wainscoting, a metallic tension like a clock being wound. The wall is moving. The gears are shifting again. Someone is inside the architecture, and they know I have found the map to their ghost walk. I stand perfectly still, my breathing shallow, listening to the house rearrange its own anatomy to hunt me. The clicking sound grows rhythmic, deliberate. It is not the house settling. It is the sound of a master key turning in a lock that shouldn't exist. My flashlight beam trembles as it cuts through the shadows, catching a glint of polished brass embedded in the wainscoting. I press my palm against the cool, dark wood. Gives way. A seam in the paneling slides open with a hiss of displaced air. I am not looking at a hidden room. I am looking at a ledger. My hand reaches inside, fingers brushing against cold, vellum paper and a heavy iron key. I pull it out. The ink on the ledger is fresh, yet the dates, 1936. The handwriting belongs to the lead architect, the man Edward Ellingham trusted with his life. I trace the ink. The chemical formulas match the sedative residues found in the modern victim's blood. The logic is blinding. The kidnapping wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was an extraction. The architect was the only one who knew how to manipulate the counterweights without triggering the alarm. He didn't just build this place. He built a prison for the Ellingham family, a cage that could be opened from the outside by anyone who held the master key. I look at the key in my palm, the same design as the ones Dr. Sterling keeps hidden in his desk. The betrayal is absolute. The bloodline of the groundskeeper wasn't protecting the academy. They were the architects of its ruin, preserving the ability to vanish into the walls for generations. I hear the shifting of stones behind me. The wall is closing. The machine is resetting itself to hide the evidence once more. I am not alone in this library. The ghost of the architect is still here, and he has been waiting for someone to finally read his blueprints. The stone slab grinds against the floorboards, a low tectonic groan that vibrates through the soles of my shoes. I scramble backward, my shoulder blade colliding with the mahogany bookshelf. The air in this library has changed. It tastes of ozone and ancient, pulverized mortar. I am not breathing. I am holding the air in my lungs, waiting for the sound of a footfall that doesn't belong to the wind. There. A click. Not a lock this time, but a latch. The sound originates from the floorboards directly beneath the desk. My heartbeat is a frantic drum against my ribs, a rhythmic intrusion in the absolute silence. I drop to my knees, pressing my ear to the cold, polished oak. Below, there is the metallic scrape of a gear turning, slow, methodical, heavy with intent. Someone is moving the counterweights manually. The architect's design is waking up. I scramble toward the desk, the iron key still biting into my palm. I need to reach the ventilation shaft, but the floorboards are shifting, misaligning in the dim light. I see the shadow move, a long, distorted shape stretching across the floor, cast by a light source that isn't mine. It moves with a predatory fluidity, sliding over the spines of the books. I am being hunted in my own discovery. I scramble toward the heavy velvet curtains, my fingers raw from scraping against the stone wall. The secret tunnel is open, a jagged black throat in the library floor. I don't look back. I slide into the darkness, the scent of damp earth and rust swallowing me whole. The game has shifted. The puzzle is no longer on the page. It is now measured in inches, in heartbeats, and in the distance between my footsteps and the ones closing in behind me. The architect left a trail, and now I am the prey. The air inside the shaft is thick, tasting of copper, damp limestone, and the suffocating history of 1936. I press my back against the cold, vertical stone, shivering as the metal pulleys groan somewhere far above. My fingers, trembling, trace the etchings on the wall, not random graffiti but geometric notations. I pull the faded journal from my jacket, the pages crinkling in the stagnant air. The chemical notations here, they match. The sedative, the precise dosage, the calculated timing used to incapacitate Iris Ellingham. It isn't just a copycat. It is a lineage of malice. I realize now that this isn't a crime of greed, but a ritual of erasure. Every generation, someone returns to these blueprints to prune the family tree, to dispose of the witnesses who stumbled upon the truth of what Edward Ellingham really built. The shadows in this tunnel are deep, swallowing the beam of my light, but the logic is blindingly clear. The architect didn't just design a house. He designed a weapon for the Ellingham bloodline, a mechanical executioner that required a human hand to guide it. I hear the metallic snap of a catch engaging above me. The floorboards are resetting. The intruder is not just following me. They are resetting the trap, closing the perimeter of this stone ribcage. I am trapped in the throat of the house, surrounded by the very contraptions that sealed the fates of those before me. My breath hitches, a sharp, ragged sound that seems to echo too loudly in the confined space. I have the evidence in my hand, but I am standing in the belly of the beast, and it is beginning to churn. The stone panel slides shut with a final, jarring thud, a sound like a coffin lid sealing. I am not alone. The air shifts, displaced by the movement of a second body in the cramped cavity behind the library shelves. I do not turn. I do not need to. I can hear the rhythmic, metallic clicking of a pocket watch, the same cadence described in the 1936 police report. Dr. Sterling. He steps forward, the light from his narrow-beam flashlight cutting through the dust, dancing across the brass gears embedded in the wall. He thinks I am a trapped rat, cornered in a maze of his own engineering. He is wrong. I hold the journal open, my thumb pressing against the chemical formula for the sedative. The architecture doesn't lie, doctor. I whisper, my voice steady despite the tremor in my knees. The poem wasn't a riddle for a treasure hunt. It was an instruction manual for the pneumatic lift. You aren't protecting the family legacy. You are operating the very machine that erased them. The clicking of the watch stops. Silence, thick and heavy, fills the void. I shift my weight, pointing my own light at the specific counterweight behind his shoulder, the one that requires a physical key to disengage. I know about the false bottom in the desk. I know about the master key. You didn't inherit this duty. You chose it. His hand drops to his coat pocket, his knuckles white against the dark wool. He is calculating the distance to the lever. He is calculating how to make me disappear into the foundation. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic, uneven rhythm, but my eyes remain fixed on the mechanical catch. I force a smile, cold and sharp. Do it. Trigger the mechanism. But remember, the blueprints are in the police evidence locker. I wasn't the only one who read them. The stalemate is absolute. The house holds its breath. The silence in the cavity is brittle, ready to shatter. Sterling's hand twitches, a micro-movement, a hesitation born of pure, calculated fear. He looks at the lever, then at me. His gaze flickers to the dust-covered gears, the cold, unyielding iron that has dictated the fate of this estate for nearly a century. He knows the math has changed. The variable he didn't account for is the light of day. Outside, the sirens begin. A low rising wail that cuts through the mountain air, vibrating against the stone walls. They are not a ghost story anymore. They are real, approaching, and inevitable. I do not lower my flashlight. I watch his pupils dilate as the sound grows louder, the rhythmic pulsing of the emergency lights casting flickers of blue and red through the cracks in the masonry. His fingers pull away from his pocket, empty. He sags, the rigid predatory tension leaving his frame as he realizes the trap is no longer mine, but his. The stone wall groans, a slow, grinding protest of ancient pulleys and rusted counterweights, as the mechanism is finally forced into manual override from the outside. With a deafening crack, the partition shifts. The heavy, pressurized air of the library floods the space, smelling of ozone and old paper. Uniformed officers move in, their boots clicking against the hardwood, their voices sharp and authoritative. Sterling doesn't resist. He simply stares at the floor, at the dust motes dancing in the beam of his own flashlight. A man hollowed out by the weight of a secret he could no longer hold. I step out into the library, the transition from the dark, mechanical womb of the walls to the open air feeling like a physical shedding of skin. The Ellingham story, once a jagged puzzle of blood and blueprints, begins to smooth over. The history of this house is being rewritten in ink and testimony, moving from a place of silent, mechanical death to a place of final, cold closure. The chaos of the arrest fades into a dull, rhythmic hum. Officers are bagging evidence. The rusted pulleys, the journals, the chemical vials that sealed the fate of the Ellingham line. I stand in the center of the library, the floorboards creaking under my weight. My duty feels complete. The case that defined my existence is cooling, turning into nothing more than a file in a government archive. I turn to leave, my hand brushing against the mahogany desk one last time. My fingers catch on a loose piece of veneer, a thin sliver of wood that shouldn't be there. Pry it back. Beneath, there is a small wax-sealed envelope. It is yellowed, brittle, and smells of attic dust. The date stamped in the corner is June 14, 1936. My pulse quickens, a sharp, erratic thud against my ribs. I tear the corner open, sliding the paper out with trembling fingers. The ink is faded, but the script is unmistakable. It is a precise, elegant, and sharp calligraphy, the exact same slanted T's and loop G's I saw on the note left in my mailbox yesterday morning. My breath hitches in my throat. The air in the room suddenly feels thin, recycled, and impossibly cold. If this letter was written in 1936, why does the ink still hold the faint metallic scent of fresh fountain pen fluid? Why does the handwriting belong to a person who stood in this very room less than 24 hours ago? The closure I craved is a lie. The cycle hasn't ended. It has only reset. If you want to uncover the secrets hidden in the shadows of this estate, make sure to subscribe to Swasti Diaries.